are back in Rochester. We got a little bit of snow last night, but we have this whole entire house just about deconstructed. The guys are getting ready to remove the back wall plate and the last two posts. We've got everything kind of laid down. We're gonna categorize it all, load it onto the trailer, and then bring it and stack it over at our warehouse in Kingston. This is really kind of exciting to me because now we get to see all the components laid out. And what we need to do is make sure we get some air into them. We're gonna treat them all with bore care. If there's any bug damage, anything like that, we're gonna just make sure it sits for a little bit. But it's really exciting that this whole structure is gonna have a whole new life in a completely different place. We're gonna watch here for this last piece to come down, and we're gonna wrap up this whole project. So one other thing I want to show you guys is these stones. So what you see a lot of times in these first period houses that we're fortunate enough to work on and dismantle and salvage is stone foundations. These particular ones are all chunks of granite. Now typically when you get these smaller chunks like this, it's all material that probably would have been on this original homestead and would have been something that would have been dug up either by hand or with oxen or teams of horses. And as the farmers were clearing fields, which was the most important thing for their livelihood, they would stack all these rocks aside and they would assemble them into a foundation. And typically it's just a small crawl space with not too much room to get underneath it, which is amazing when you think of 8-foot foundations that we typically have in new construction. These last for hundreds of years, the house breathes, and it can be a very solid foundation when it's done right. So we're gonna keep all this stone and we're gonna try to use this in the project that we're working on in Plympton. So I think when a lot of people think about historic homes, they think of some of the attributes and some of the framing members that we now typically want to see exposed, like the beams and the posts that actually form the construction of the wall framing and the structure itself. Back in the day, when somebody would have been building this house, they didn't really want to show that off because the house would look unfinished. But there's certain elements early on, before the days of plaster and such, that we do want to expose, or people did want to expose because they would look finished. Now we walked through and kind of showed you the framing in the front hall here where we took the paneling off and had that beautiful summer beam in the ceiling. Well, now we've got all these components laid down and I want to show you guys some of the features of these that I'm really fascinated about. And it just kind of is a testament to the craftsmanship. So if we look here at the top in front of this pile, we've got these beams. Now, or posts, sorry. The beams are the ones that go horizontal across, posts or vertical. The post, that would be the bottom, sits on the sill plate of the house, and then it's splayed as it comes up, so it widens at the top, and it holds the wall plates to support the rest of the framing, and then the principal truss cords or principal rafters that form the roof framing. And you can lock in to these tenons with a mortise, and that sits all the way across here. So you'd have another beam that would go across the top of this post, and you'd peg it right here and here. So you'd have one for the rafter that was going into the roof and one for the beam that was going across the top of the wall plate. So it's just kind of a beautiful piece of lumber. This is real old growth. And if we're lucky, we might be able to do some dendrochronology on this, where we could actually take a sample of this and try to date this to find out what the age of this tree was that this material is made out of. It's just a fascinating way to look at history. So now if we take a walk around the rest of the pile here, we've got, again, some of the wall plate members that would have gone on the exterior of the house, with then all these notches here. So this would be a mortise that we would then have a tenon or a rafter that would go in, right? And this was most likely supporting some of the floor members for the second floor. And then if we take a look around here, we've got a couple of neat features in these longer components. When we come to the ends here, and this makes a really strong joint, if any of you have ever looked at antique furniture and looked at how a drawer was constructed on the side, a lot of times you can see the dovetails. So you'd have a dovetail joint on the side of a drawer and the face of the drawer goes into it. Well, it's the same technique that's used in this type of construction in these houses. And you can see, so this is a half dovetail right here, and you've got another mortise that's cut into this beam and a tenon that would have sat in here. So this would have probably been on the exterior wall. This is either on the gable or part of the plates that probably would have gone and joined into the gable on the end here, and then had a rafter that was sitting in here that would have held up the roof. And now the piece that I'm most excited about is this one right here. Now we've got it all numbered so we can correspond each one of these mortises to the tenons on these oak floor rafters right here. So this was the summer beam that was in the hall in the center of the ceiling supporting the second floor. And this has a full dovetail at the back here. And you can see how it flays out so it locks in to the exterior wall plate on the gable. And then, as I was saying, historically they wouldn't have had plaster when this was originally installed. So what they would do is decorate these by carving these beads on the corners here. And it was also an early method of fire protection. When you would round a corner off, if the house were to catch on fire, it wouldn't burn as quickly. It's just fascinating for me to be able to see all these components and think about the new life that this is going to have. Rich and I were discussing this earlier. He was looking it up, and where it actually comes from, it's, I guess, a French word for horse or workhorse, because this is the workhorse of the framing members of the house. And the summer beam really is taking all the weight and joining everything together. It's just a massive beam, and it would be a shame to have this go into the dumpster. Again, you can't replace this stuff, but you can certainly reuse it. It's gonna be amazing to reincorporate something that's hundreds of years old in another structure that we saved and have people be able to enjoy it for generations to come. This just gets me excited no matter what we do and how we're working on it. We're just really lucky to have opportunities like this come our way. All right, guys, we are here in Rochester. We have finished the house. The whole Full Circle team is here, and we are super excited to give this home a brand new life. Woohoo! Thanks for tuning in to this house dismantling project here in Rochester. I can't wait to show you where all these components are going to go in the project we're working on in Plympton. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There is a lot more coming.